Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay then. So I'm starting with history taking of mass or lump abdomen today. Now, the first question is, what is the difference between a mass and a lump? The first question. If you encounter these two terms simultaneously. So, what is a mass and what is a lump? The difference between lump and mass and lump. So mass, we say just normally any mass, anywhere it can appear. It can appear over your because of your any muscle enlargement, or because of any like your painful stimulus in your body. There will be a swelling, which is called a mass in like over your palm, over your hand, anywhere in the body, and it will have a proper surrounding or proper boundary. It will have a proper edge or boundary. But what is a lump? Lump is something. Lump is also a mass only, but it is generally present inside an organ, inside an organ or ductular structure, the organ containing ducts and all. And the lump will not have a. You may not appreciate a definite boundary or a definite edge in a lump. So mass is something, a swelling which originates all over your body. A lump is something that you can appreciate generally in any internal organ, or any organ having ductular structure like breast, or any internal organ like your gallbladder or your liver, something like that. And these lumps will not have, the main point is that the lumps will not have a proper boundary. You cannot differentiate. You cannot say that the lump extends from this and this. The lump, the size of the lump is exactly this. So it does not have a proper boundary or a proper dimensions. So we can say this is the main difference between a mass and a lump. Now, when you take a history of a lump, generally in surgery you will have in your like long cases you will have a lump, not a mass or not a swelling. So swelling or mass are more or less synonymous, but lump is something that there is not that does not have a proper boundary or a proper edge. So in your long cases, you will encounter lump in your breast as a long case. A patient will come with lump in the breast, in either breast. Then he or she may come with lump in your right hypochondrium, or in the left hypochondrium, or in the epigastrium, or in the right iliac fossa, or in the hypogastrium, anywhere. In according, I told you the 9 quadrants of the abdomen. So in any quadrant of the abdomen, he or she can present with a lump. And other areas of lumps are mainly it's in your in female breast or a male breast also can present with a lump. So these are the main side areas where lumps originate. So first, briefly, when does a lump appear? I'm mainly concentrating on your abdominal lumps, intra-abdominal lumps, intra-abdominal mass or intra-abdominal lumps. So in your any intra-abdominal mass or intra-abdominal lump. Okay, so when does a mass or a lump arise in your abdomen? Whenever there is a distal obstruction. First point. Whenever there is a distal obstruction, the fluids will accumulate inside the organ and it will eventually enlarge, and you can appreciate it as a lump. For example, in your gastric outlet obstruction, in any like maybe it may be a gastric cancer, it may be something other than cancer which obstructs your duodenum, and because the gastric contents cannot pass through the duodenum, these will get accumulated inside the stomach. It will distend the stomach, and we can feel the stomach as a lump in your epigastric area. Similarly, in gallbladder. So I told you about the hollow organs and the solid organs. Okay, so you will get generally appreciable lumps or palpable lumps. You generally get in a hollow organ, but you may also find it in a solid organ. But in a hollow organ, what happens? Because the organ contains its secretions and it cannot it does contract, but it cannot pass its contents distally because of obstruction. So the contents get accumulated inside that organ and you will feel it as a lump. For example, another example is your gallbladder lump. You will appreciate in your right hypochondrium. Another lump is your appendicular lump. You will appreciate in your right iliac fossa. So these are some examples of your lump. So now, while taking history, what you ask first is your duration of your history. How long? For how long the patient is having this lump? Because the patient will feel the lump on his or her own only. He will feel that something is something he or she can feel by his by touching the organ, by touching the area of the abdomen, and he or she will come with the chief complaint only. Sometimes patient may come with the single chief complaint of lump only, nothing else. So how will you proceed? First you ask the duration of the lump. For how many days he or she can appreciate. That doesn't mean that if he or she says that it's he can palpate it for last 1 month. It doesn't mean that the lump is there for 1 month. The lump might be present many days before the patient can actually appreciate it. Because when the patient can appreciate, because we as a clinicians can we as clinicians we can feel the lump even before the patient knows actually, because we'll have the techniques of palpation and percussion and all, and we can say that there is a lump present. But patients can only palpate the lump or can only feel the lump when there is a massive enlargement of the organ. So whenever the patient comes with a complaint of say 1 month, it doesn't mean that the lump is present for only 1 month. It might be present for many months more. Though even then, if you ask the patient and patient says that it is present for a few days only, or he or she can say that like it is present for a few months or maybe for years. So any recent swelling a few days old, generally are what? Generally are infective. Any infection has happened in your any part of the body, and there may be a development of abscess, because bacteria and all the bacteria generally have incubation period in the range of 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe maximum up to 1 month. No bacteria will have incubation period more than 1 month. So few days old swelling over any part of the body is generally an abscess, that is infective infection inside a. What is an abscess now? Abscess is something, the boundary wall of the abscess will contain pus inside it, and it will form its own, it will shed cells and epithelium, and they will form an epithelial covering over the pus, and that you can feel as a lump, or you can feel it as swelling. So this is called your abscess. Now swellings, those are present for a few months, few years. Generally we consider it as neoplastic or cancerous, unless proved otherwise. If we cannot prove that, if we do some imaging investigation, and then only we can rule out that these are not cancers and all. Now next is your onset. How did the lump start, or how did the swelling start? Did it start after a trauma, after any accident, or after any injury, or does it after an insect bite, or it has developed on its own? So after a trauma, generally what will happen? There will be bleeding on a certain part after trauma, and those bleedings, those blood will get clot and will be accumulated inside a cavity or inside a epithelial lining covering, and these are called as hematomas. So hematomas may be present after a trauma, or after an operation also. If there is bleeding and the bleeding is not controlled then and there, then there will be hematoma formation. And after operation there, if you see a scar over the abdomen, and if you see that a swelling is in the line of that scar, that means what? The intra-abdominal organs have protruded out through the scar area. Scarred areas are generally weak areas in the abdomen. They don't contain, they will not have the strength of your abdominal musculature in a normal human being, as of a normal human being. So this will be a weak area over the abdominal midline, and the intra-abdominal structures may protrude out through this weak area, but the skin coverings will be there. Skin will not be penetrated, or skin will not be eroded. So skin covering will be there, but you can feel a swelling or a lump over the incisional line. This is known as your incisional hernia. And other skin swelling like your insect bites and minor injuries can also develop as abscess and all. Now, going into progression. Progression is very important because it gives you clue whether a lump is the main important thing when we take history of an intra-abdominal lump or mass is whether it is a benign or a neoplastic origin. This is the main thing for which you are examining the patient, because depending on the nature of the lump, whether it is a benign or neoplastic, your treatment modality will change. So this is the basic and the main thing behind your examination and your history taking of a lump. First is whether it is which organ, it is arising from which organ according to your location over the abdomen, according to your abdominal quadrants. And second is whether it is benign or neoplastic. Now, how will you know from history that it is a benign or neoplastic mass? Your history will not confirm it, but it will give you a hint. If the mass or lump has rapidly progressed over a few days, then two things can happen. Either there is hemorrhage inside the lump, bleeding has occurred, spontaneous bleeding has occurred inside that lump, or there might be a cancerous growth inside in that lump, which has grown very rapidly. And those cancers which grow very rapidly have poor or very bad prognosis. Other cancerous lesions can grow very slowly over many years, and those will have your prognosis will be good. So this is very important, the progression. Now, features of your lump. Is the lump of the patient painful or painless? Now, there is one important thing is there. If the patient says that it is painless, there is maximum chance of the lump being a neoplastic one or a cancerous one. Only condition when the lump will be painful in a cancerous patient, in a neoplastic patient, is when there is hemorrhage inside the lump. When these cancer cells migrate and invade a blood vessel in the vicinity of that tumor area, it will erode the blood vessel wall and the vessel will bleed. Then only the lump will present as a pain. So, painless lump generally neoplastic. A neoplastic lump can only be painful whenever there is any hemorrhage, or there may be another important thing is necrosis. Hemorrhage and necrosis, these two things can make the lump of a neoplastic origin painful. And other inflammatory conditions, lump of inflammatory conditions are generally painful. Next is your discharge. Is there any discharge from any lump? For discharge, a very common example is your breast lump. In CA breast, carcinoma breast, there can be discharge from your lump, ulceration and discharge from the lump in advanced stage, or sometimes maybe mainly in the advanced stage, but sometimes it may present, the discharge may present as the only presenting feature in a breast lump when the lump is not palpable in very early stages. So the discharge is very important. Now, other benign conditions have discharge and may discharge, like a sebaceous cyst may discharge, an abscess may discharge. These things can have discharge. Now, coming to persistence. So, if we encounter a lump, say for an example, there is a lump over your, there is a palpable solid lump over your hand or over your forearm. You did an USG or you did some investigation and you found that the lump contains some secretions or some pus like fluid. You aspirated the thing, injection by a needle, you aspirated the thing. After a few days, it is again getting collected. The collection has not drained. The collection is again persisting. So persistence of any discharge in a lump suggests that there is a connection between your deeper structure, maybe not always, but maximum chance of your connection between your deeper structure through which the discharge is coming. So now coming to few case related things, like in your I've already told you about your gallbladder lump and your stomach lumps. You will palpate your stomach lump in the epigastrium, your gallbladder lump in the right hypochondrium. Now, in a benign condition where a gallbladder can be palpable, there might be benign condition also, like your acute cholecystitis. In your acute cholecystitis or mucosal formation, the gallbladder will be palpable, but it will be very painful. In cancer, it is generally painless. In other areas like your right iliac fossa, you will get appendicular lump. These are the common areas of lump formation. In epigastrium also you will get lump of your pancreas, and there is cyst formation in the pancreas. You will get lump in the epigastrium. So these are the areas of your where you will get a lump. Now coming to your whenever you encounter a lump, you should ask the patient whether he had similar lump or lump in some other areas previously. Ask the patient if there is an existing similar lump or a previous similar lump. The patient may have had a previous swelling that was taken out only to recur, because it may recur. This should favor a diagnosis of malignancy, because in malignancy there will be connection with the deeper structure. So whenever you are encountering a superficial lump also, and you are seeing that the lump is recurrent, lump is getting if you are pulling out the discharge, if you are emptying the discharge also, again the discharge is getting collected. So you will suspect that there might be a malignancy in the underlying structures. Now, other important things are other important things that may make your lump one is radiation therapy is very common, because people tend to take radiation therapy for cancer treatment, and that radiation therapy can lead to lump formation or cancer formation in some other part of your body. So this history you have to take about your radiation exposure, if the patient had been exposed to radiation previously or not. Now, when after taking history of a lump or mass, you have to examine the lump or mass. So in examination, there are 2 or 3 important things. One is you have to confirm, you have seen that the lump is present in your epigastrium, say for example, but now you have to confirm that actually it is present in the epigastrium. So for that you have to palpate the lump and confirm that yes, the lump is present in the epigastrium. Whenever you confirm that the lump is palpable and it's present in the epigastrium, next thing is you measure the lump from your vertical axis and horizontal axis. You take the reading as, like for example, 5 into 5 centimeter. In vertical axis 5 centimeter, horizontal axis 5 centimeter, 5 into 5 centimeter. And the extension of the lump, whether the lump extends to any other quadrants. So for example, the lump does not know the boundaries of the abdomen. The nine quadrants of the abdomen, the lump does not follow the 9 quadrants of the abdomen, because they don't know whether there are 9 or 10 or some other number of quadrants. So a lump may extend from your epigastrium to right side into right hypogastrium, or into the left side into the left hypogastrium, or below into the umbilical region. So you have to note down the extension of the lump. While presenting the lump, we will say epigastric lump is present. A lump is present over the epigastrium, which extends into right or left hypochondrium or below up to the umbilicus. That is how you have to present. dimension of the lumps are 5 into 5 centimeter. The lump is palpable. The lump has or has not a definitive boundary. If you can feel the boundary, then it is a definitive boundary. If you cannot feel the boundary of a lump, then you will say that the lump is irregular in shape and the boundaries are not palpable. And now you have to know, when I say that there is a lump present over the abdominal wall or abdomen, how will you know that the lump is outside the peritoneum or inside the peritoneum? This is important. Whether the lump is present outside peritoneum or inside peritoneum, it is present inside the peritoneum, because your treatment modality will change depending on that. If you are encountering a lump inside the peritoneum, you have to enter the peritoneum, and it will be a major surgery. If you are encountering a lump outside the peritoneum in the abdominal wall, then you can carry out the surgery in a local anesthesia, and it can be a minor procedure. So this is important. How will you know this? It's very simple. Patient is supine on the bed. Patient is sleeping on the bed. You just ask the patient to raise his head end from the bed. From the pillow, you ask to raise his hand, but his knees should be extended as like when he was sleeping. His knees should not be flexed. His knees should be extended. His hips should be extended. Only the head part should be raised. So when he raises his head, or you can do another thing also. You ask the patient to sleep in a supine position. Just ask him to raise his legs only, not head. Either head or legs, one of those. So what will happen if he only raises his head or only raises his legs? The abdominal muscle will become taut, will become tight or taut. So any lump that will be present inside the peritoneum, you will not be able to feel now, because the muscles have become taut. You cannot insinuate your fingers through these taut muscles and feel the organ which is present inside the peritoneum. But if a lump is present outside the peritoneum in your abdominal wall, whenever the muscle will contract, it will push the lump even superficially. So you will better palpate the lump. So if the lump is intra-abdominal, intraperitoneal, it will be, you cannot palpate the lump after the patient raises his head or legs. Not both of those, only one of those. Either head, ask the patient to raise his head, or ask the patient to raise his legs. The lump will disappear. If it is an abdominal wall tumor or abdominal wall mass, the abdominal muscles will push the lump or mass even superficially, even forward or superficially, so that you can easily palpate the lump. Now another thing is that the lump may be present in your behind the peritoneum. There is retroperitoneal organ. Retroperitoneal organ, your example is kidney. For example, the kidneys are your retroperitoneal organs. So in that case, in retroperitoneal organs also, after this test, you can differentiate again retroperitoneal organ from your intra-abdominal organ by this test, simple test. So now coming to you will first what will you do? First you will palpate the lump. You will measure the dimension of the lump. Next, after measuring the dimensions of the lump, you will see the extension of the lump. Is it present in a single quadrant, or is it going like extending into other quadrants of the abdomen? Is it an intra-abdominal lump, or it is a abdominal wall lump? Retroperitoneum you need not worry about retroperitoneal because you will not get retroperitoneal cases now. You will get only intra-abdominal cases only, intra-abdominal or abdominal wall cases to differentiate from one another. So this is how we differentiate from an intra-abdominal and abdominal wall mass. Now, there we go. Move further. Other things you have to see in a lump on inspection are your color of the lump. Is it reddish or is it pale? By seeing this, you will know that whether the lump is vascular, it contains blood vessels, or it is not vascular, non-vascular. It does not contain any blood vessels and all. If there are dilated veins, you can see in a lump on inspection. Or I have already told you about the ulceration, because mainly the lump, breast lump, whenever it in an advanced stage will get ulcerated. So these are the 3 things we have to see over the skin of the lump: color, dilated veins, and ulceration. And now, and other things, you have to see the adjacent structures that I have already told you, extension into the other quadrants, and it may push, because a large gastric lump, whenever a gastric stomach becomes very distended, very large, it will push in the nearby structures. So for example, the nearby structure of your stomach is your common bile duct, for example, common bile duct. It will push over the common bile duct. And what will happen if it pushes over the common bile duct? The common bile duct will get narrowed, or the lumen of the common bile duct will get narrow. So bile cannot pass easily through the common bile duct, and the patient will present with jaundice. So this is not, the jaundice is not because of any abnormality in his biliary system, but jaundice is present. Why? Because the stomach has become so enlarged that it is pushing over the wall of the common bile duct, and because of that, the bile cannot flow easily. It will accumulate and cause jaundice. So for this reason, we have to see the extension into the nearby structures. Size I have already told you. Tenderness, tenderness is same as pain. When you take a history of pain, if there is there any pain over the lump, and you when you palpate, you just confirm with palpation that if you touch it, if you touch over the skin of the lump, whether it feels warm or whether patient winces in pain, that is your tenderness. Same again, you have to look for your temperature also. In highly vascular swellings, you will feel warm, and the temperature will be raised. But in non-vascular swellings, the swelling does not contain any blood vessel. It will not be warm. It will feel cold. So I don't think going into detail into your palpation will be very much, will not be, because you will be asked about only history taking only. So in history taking, you have to mainly, in summarizing the points, in history taking, first you have to ask about the duration. For how many days or how many months or how many years the lump is there, lump is present. Next is that will differentiate your lump from your acute condition from chronic condition. Chronic conditions are generally your neoplastic or cancerous. Acute conditions are generally your inflammatory or benign. Next is your onset. In onset, how did it start? Whether there is a history of trauma, whether there is a history of any operation, or whether the lump has, the onset was spontaneous. So these 3 things you have to ask. If it has occurred after a trauma, then, and if it is present over the abdominal wall or anywhere in the body, then most probably it is a hematoma. Because of bleeding, the blood gets accumulated inside a cavity, inside an epithelial line cavity, and it is known as your hematoma. Or if it is after an operation, then it can be again hematoma because of the bleeding is not controlled. Another thing is it can be incisional hernia. What is incisional hernia? Whenever we operate and we give a midline incision, when we close the abdomen, what happens when you close the abdomen? The abdominal muscles are not that taut like before, preoperative compared to preoperative stage. So the intra-abdominal contents may protrude out through the weak muscles, weak muscular support, but the skin will be present. So this is known as your incisional hernia. And if the onset is on its own, it is most likely to be either a cancer or a benign cystic swelling. Next is your progression. Again, what is the rate of the change of growth? If it has progressed very slowly, most likely it is going to be a neoplastic. In neoplastic, when we can find a rapid growth only in cases of hemorrhage and necrosis. Whenever there is any bleeding inside your, I have already told you, in a lump, when the cancer cells grow and erode the blood vessel, wall of the blood vessel, the vessel will rupture and cause bleeding. That will cause enormous increase, rapid increase in the size of the lump. And another is necrosis. You have already studied in your patho, I think. Necrosis. Necrosis is also same thing. It will lead to your massive enlargement or rapid enlargement of your tumor or mass. So in neoplastic etiology or neoplastic cases, only these two things, hemorrhage and necrosis, will cause rapid change, rapid growth in your lump. In other benign conditions will have rapid, generally rapid or maybe slow growth. Now, and next, we will ask about the associated features, like is there any pain? Generally, this is painless. Neoplastic etiology is painless. Again, same, pain will be there when there will be hemorrhage or necrosis. Then the cancerous lump or neoplastic lump will be painful in cases of hemorrhage and necrosis. And generally, other benign inflammatory conditions will be painful, like your abscess or your acute cholecystitis or your acute appendicitis. These are all inflammatory conditions and will be very painful because of inflammation. What happens in inflammation? In inflammation, it will, any structure when it gets inflamed, it will touch the visceral peritoneum, or serosa of that structure will come in contact with the parietal peritoneum, and because of the irritation of the parietal peritoneum and same nerve supply with your diaphragm, it will cause pain and may also lead to your tendency, nausea and vomiting, that I already told you the pain class. So if to associated features, you have to ask about pain. Next is your discharge. Any discharging pass or any discharging cavity will have a deeper connection. In breast, there may be, in advanced cancer, there might be your ulceration and discharge from the lump. So discharge is generally, when you encounter discharge in a neoplastic case, it generally tells you that the cancerous cells or the etiology is advanced. The cancer is already advanced. That is why it has eroded the vital structures and discharging the or shedding the epithelial cells and debris outside through the skin. Because whenever there is a discharge has to be developed, how will it discharge? It will discharge through the skin only. So it has to first erode its coverings. Then after eroding its covering, it will grow. It will come out, and it will irritate the skin. After eroding the skin, then there will be a formation of tract, fistulous tract between the skin and your organ, and through this tract the pus will come out. So it takes very long time. It takes like long time to develop. So whenever there is a discharge in your cancerous lump or neoplastic lump, it generally signifies a very advanced stage. Another one is, you have to ask about persistence, whether the lump is first time lump or the lump has recurred following excision or following aspiration, or there was lump in some other part of the body, but it has now grown but now the lump has shifted to some other area. So I've told you about the radiation. For example, for breast carcinoma, we take radiation. We give radiation to the patient, and that radiation can eventually lead to cure of the breast cancer, but it may lead to cancer over other part of the body, any other part of the body. So this is about, so radiation is a double-edged sword. It will cure, but it can also cause your cancer. A double-edged sword. Other things what you have to ask in history is your same cause. What caused? Already I have told you, cause trauma or operation or spontaneous, and past medical or surgical history, like similar lump was present before, or lump has recurred, or lump is present for the first time, or lump was there in one place, now it is the lump is present in another place, some other place. So these are the things, past intervention like your surgery or radiation. So these are the things you have to ask. So lump you don't, your history is very concise history. You did not ask many much more things. These are the points only what I have given you. Only you have to these points only you have to cover. And physical examination you don't need. I've already told you some points about physical examination, but you don't need physical examination now. So I'll conclude the class. You have class from 1:30. Okay. So I'll conclude now. Okay. phone করে কি আজাদ দেয়